Mr. NUGEE, State Street has a very wide experience in pensions all around the world. How would you describe the actual status of the European pensions at this moment?
I think there are two things which dominate the European pensions world. The first is that it's very diverse. We have a large number of countries, and between them they have tried a large number of different ways of providing pensions for their citizens. So the map is very diverse, and bringing that together in the European Union and creating portable pensions between our countries remains one of the jobs which is not yet finished. The second thing I would say about our pensions, particularly in some countries in Europe, is that they are over-dependent on the state, over-dependent on the national pension scheme, commonly known as Pillar 1. In some countries that has been addressed, but in other countries reliance on the state pension scheme is complete, and that creates problems of affordability, particularly as people live longer.
It's a complicated status. You think maybe the states should redesign their pension architectures and get a more balanced scheme between the three pillars?
I not only think they should, I think this is inevitable. I think it is not possible to continue with the pension schemes we have in the moment. Those countries which rely almost entirely on Pillar 1 schemes will find they are increasingly difficult to afford. But beyond that, it is more in keeping with the ethos of the European Union, where people will change jobs and indeed change countries. Everyone in the Union has the right to work in any country in the Union. And that itself means that a system based on national or state pensions is less flexible. So I think the affordability of pensions, Pillar 1 pensions, is already in question in many states in the Union. But I think also the lifestyle of citizens of the Union requires a more flexible approach. People in the Union have the right to live and work anywhere within the European Union. And it is only right that we design a pension system which reflects that and allows them to create and save for their own future, whichever country they are in. And schemes which are based on national schemes do not fit very well with a European workforce.
What chances do you think there are to have a more uniform approach to the pension problem across the European states?
I think there is a chance, and I say that because I think there is increasing acceptance that the existing system of providing retirement finance is becoming very stretched. In some states, action is being taken to raise the pension age. In other states, action is being taken to increase the contributions. In still other states, action is being taken to reduce the entitlements. All three of these show that politicians are aware that the current status cannot continue. Once you have the acceptance that change is inevitable, it is possible to consider change which benefits today's modern European citizens and reduces the dependence on Pillar 1, increases the flexibility afforded by Pillar 2 and Pillar 3.
In the Western economies, the DB schemes are dominant, still dominant. But there are a lot of issues now which makes doubtful, let's say, the future related to the workforce mobility and so on. What do you think? Are they still fit to the actual lifestyle of the Europeans?
They are a reflection of where we have been and where we have come from. And we have come from a world where most people worked for the same company for most of their working lives. That was the position for our parents, our grandparents. It's no longer the position for today's citizens. I do think myself that the DB scheme, which rewards longevity at a company, rewards long service at a company, is not as favourable to employees who wish to change company, employees who wish to perhaps leave the workforce for a while, to have a family or to try something new. So that today's employees require more flexibility, and the DB scheme, valuable though it is not as flexible as today's workforce requires. We have seen this in other countries. The move from Pillar 1 to Pillar 2 to Pillar 3 is also a move from entirely benefit to mostly contribution.
So can we say that the DC schemes are the future in pensions?
Obviously, in some cases, they are already a very large part of the landscape for pensions. One thinks of America with its 401k schemes, one thinks of Australia with its super schemes. In Europe, I don't think we will get that far. I think in Europe there remains a desire to show cohort solidarity, a desire to have some sense of common support. So I don't think the future is entirely DC. But I don't think anybody will deny that DC is going to play a bigger part in the pensions world of Europe of the future.
In the eastern states of Europe, mainly in Romania, as we are from there, there is a kind of pension scheme which is DC, mainly DC, but with an absolute guarantee. Do you think that can be a solution for the future, maybe mixing the benefits both of DB and DC in a way?
I believe so, and there are other countries which have tried this and experimented in this way too. Here we are sitting in Holland, and they have also a very interesting mix of DB and DC, which retains some of the cohort solidarity of DB within a DC framework. I think it is more the European way. I think the entire reliance on individual contributions does not fit well with the society which the European Union has built, a society of solidarity between citizens, of social security for those who are weak. So I think any solution which retains some of the cohort solidarity of DB will be beneficial. And I'm very encouraged to hear in Romania you have that. Here in the Netherlands they have it too. I think it will be included in the solutions of the future for the whole of the European Union.
It is very much talk these days about the financial education of the members of the schemes, which is seen like a very important issue related to their ability to make the choices they need. What do you think about that?
It is part and parcel of giving people the freedom to manage their own lives, that you have to educate them so that they can make sensible choices. Myself, I am very worried that in some cases we appear not so much to be giving people freedom, empowering them, as abandoning them completely, telling them you're on your own and we're not helping you. That's not the way forward. The way forward is clearly to give people choice, but also to give people the educational tools to make a sensible choice.
What do you think we should do in this respect? Are any solutions which were tested by some countries?
It's very difficult. Pensions is not an attractive subject until you're about 60. Then it becomes very attractive indeed. But for many people, pensions reflect the fact that we're all going to grow old, and that is something people don't want to think about. Because of that, it is quite challenging to interest our young people in the world of pensions. Now, our young people can be interested when they see an advantage. Every young person wants to learn to drive because they see the immediate advantage of the freedom of their own car. Every young person knows how to work a mobile phone, knows how to work a bank account or credit card because they see immediate advantage. What we have to do is make them want to understand pensions. That's very, very challenging when the benefit, the payoff, is so far in the future that they don't want to think about it. But we must find a way to do it because our young people are not stupid. When changes are made to pension schemes, as they are in many European countries at the moment, people notice. And one thing that nobody can deny is that people care. So they can be made interested in pensions. It's just that we have to do so at the education stage rather than at the protest stage.
Do you think that imposing mandatory participation in the pension funds could be a form of getting people involved and maybe better informed?
It doesn't fit very well with somebody who believes in the liberty of the individual, but in this particular case, I think it is a bit like seatbelts in a car. If you just provide seatbelts, there will always be people who don't use them because they think they won't have a crash, and then when they do, they are badly hurt. If you enforce seatbelts, you protect people against themselves. And I think in the same sense, to have compulsory contributions to a pension scheme will help those people who would otherwise decide, this is not important enough for me.
I know that in UK the state is preparing to impose a form of auto-enrollment in the pension schemes. Could be this maybe be a method to ensure a better coverage and finally a better level of information on this?
I think that's a very interesting question. Nobody really knows how the UK's example will work out, but we can look to one possible example of compulsory contributions, which is Australia. In Australia, the super scheme is nationwide, universal, and compulsory. The most interesting result of that is that when it was first introduced, people complained. Once it had been running for a few years and people saw their pension pots building up, they suddenly became more interested. As they became more interested, they demanded more education. As they had more education, they became more knowledgeable. And Australia now has a citizenry which is more engaged with its retirement finance, not only than it was 20 years ago, but than almost any other country. So I think you've made a good point. I think compulsory contributions is forcing people to do the right thing. And in the end, you will so show them that it's the right thing that they will want to do the right thing.